you asked about next 5 years. I think
Right.
we are standing at the cusp of a next generation transformation. And obviously, it's no brainer. AI is going to play a major role, right?
Correct.
Generative AI is probably the first form of the AI, which is going to right now seeing the maturity from the perspective of the many models which are being put in by the companies.
Welcome to FaceTime with Leaders by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. This podcast brings you insightful conversations with top executives who are driving change and innovation across industries. In today's episode, we are honored to have with us Mr. Deepak Mishra, a distinguished leader with over 2 decades of experience in telecom, finance, and IT. Mr. Mishra has played a pivotal role in leading digital transformations, driving data-driven growth strategies, and fostering AI-powered innovation at Fortune 50 companies, including AT&T. His remarkable career spans building startups, establishing global capability centers, and spearheading large-scale cost-saving initiatives. Deepak, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on FaceTime with Leaders. We look forward to hearing your insights and experiences.
Good morning, Priya. Many thanks for actually inviting me. It's definitely an honor to be with Directors Institute, as I've been associated with them for long. So again, this opportunity has come in at a very opportune time when we were actually trying to talk about a lot of transformations happening. So thanks again for having me, and it's an absolute honor for me.
Absolutely. So I look forward to a very interesting and insightful conversation. So Deepak, let's get straight to it. To start off, your career has spanned some exciting and diverse sectors, from telecom to finance and IT. But we are curious if you could go back to the very beginning of your journey when you first started exploring your career. Was there a spark, a moment? Was there a particular challenge, or even for that matter, a mentor that made you realize you were on the path you are now? So what was it that kept you going, especially when challenges arose? We'd love to hear from you.
Well, definitely a very interesting point. So let me actually talk about my journey. So when I actually started, it was a very pivotal moment for India because though being a computer engineering graduate, everybody was leaning towards software and its prospects. But the telecom legislation, which was actually enacted in 1994 as a telecom policy, was actually was emerging as a very powerful enabler of a digital transformation. And this probably was one of the pivotal moments which led me to explore IT and telecom and how it could probably drive a larger scale challenge. Now, this was a very big moment, and this is how I entered into IT and telecom services. But then the next big turning, and by the way, I have had many turning points, so probably I'll give you a couple of them. My next big turning point was when I actually became the CTO of AT&T, and being the CTO of multinational corporation in India, it got me an opportunity to actually be part of the legislation for the next generation service providers, like many of the global ones, which were actually aspiring to be in India. And basically the services, the next generation services like VPNs, internet services, some of the value added services like Internet of Things and machine to machine, and and I'll come on to the AI, which is the buzzword for today, but the foundation of that was probably laid somewhere around 2006, 2007, when this transformation was happening. So, and then probably another turning point was when I actually moved into doing a larger scale consulting and technical marketing, what we call as high impact digital transformation projects, and whether it is being a shared services center, building the global capability centers, or probably driving an AI powered solution. Those were, the things which actually were very pivotal for me. And these things actually created a very tangible business impact. And one of the very defining example was when we actually moved when we moved AT&T into a managed services model, which actually entailed not only a transformation but a huge 1.5 billion cost saving initiative over 5 years, which actually made a great learning on my career, and then it reinforced my passion for the business transformation.
Right. And so thanks for sharing that with us. And it's really powerful to hear how, early experiences shape our approach, whether it's leadership or any other aspect of the business. Deepak, it's fascinating to see how you've taken Proxiio from an idea to a leading legal tech business serving the US market, especially with all the challenges of combining legal services and next-gen technology. So when you think about building something which is so groundbreaking, I'm curious, was there a particular moment during this journey that really made you realize the impact you were creating, something that made all the hard work and sleepless nights worth it?
No, actually, you are right. And Proxio Global Solutions came at a very later stage. But then, even before that, I mean, if you look at, I'll give you one example. In 2013, I was given an opportunity to actually lead the transformation of one of the Fortune 500 corporation called DXC's IT and infrastructure operations into AT&T. And in this, the challenge was actually twofold. One of the challenge was when we transitioned this business, there was a challenge of sustaining the operational excellence of close to about 700 plus customers spread globally across 145 countries. But then at the same time, actually cut about $170 million in the cost initiating measures through a digital transformation. So this journey, right from actually I became the CTO, was continuing. And from a technical to a complete business and marketing stuff, how did we achieve that? It was actually as you said rightly, it was a continuous journey, complete digital transformation. And we actually achieved that. Not only we did achieve this, but we also boosted the customer retention to almost 97%, which was actually almost 20 basis points more than what it was previously. And by actually transitioning 1,500 plus employees in Asia Pacific. And this particular experience actually solidified my own belief in the power of digital transformation to not only drive efficiency, but also the cultural change. And when I actually carried on this particular thing, and there was a moment of driving the professional services organization within AT&T, and that was again building a sustained revenue stream for AT&T while handling the complex digital transformation project. And loaded with all these experiences, when I actually joined Proxiio, this was again, as I say, it was another defining moment for me, because Proxiio as a concept was there, but there was nothing on the stage. So this particular build out was actually from the ground up. And this was totally different from what I have been doing in corporations like AT&T, right? And entering a very competitive legal tech space, because this is the space which is already saturated in the US market, and people are actually looking towards a very meaningful innovation with the help of artificial intelligence, and automating some of the heavy lifting services which are actually at the bottom end. So this was a very competitive space. And, now despite of that, we actually launched in US the Proxio brand within 10 months of from the time I actually took the helm of Proxio. But then what we did, some of the things within Proxio was also we actually integrated an AI-powered workflow automation system, which actually moved in from code to cash. So it actually completed the entire life cycle of a customer experience with Proxio. And this actually gave us a very satisfying understanding that even in the saturated market, if you are having a strategic leadership and you are actually not leaving the innovation, you are definitely bound to create a differentiation and the success. So yes, Proxio was definitely a very different journey because legal tech was actually different from what I was doing, but then at the core of it, the philosophy remained some of the emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and some of the digital transformation which this particular sector is actually undergoing. Yeah, I mean, this was definitely a very interesting journey.
Right. Those are very inspiring anecdotes that you shared with us. And when you were responding, there's a question that came to my mind, which is slightly off script, but help me understand in one's, professional journey, or maybe in your experience, where do you think you get greater opportunities for learning? Are there the unexpected challenges that one faces, or are there do you learn more when you are given opportunities? Say someone identifies a strength in you and you are expected to take charge of a project. So one is a challenge and one is, you're unexpectedly given the reins of a project that you have to handle. So where do you think greater learning happens, like in the challenges or these unexpected opportunities that come your way? What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, so I will actually put it in a very different way, right?
Sure.
I will call it as some of the must avoid paradigms, right? Which are prevalent, right? So, first of all, if you look at from the perspective of what the companies actually do when they undertake these kind of transformations, or they are actually penetrating into the saturated market, or they are trying to actually be a blue ocean company, which is like trying something which has not been tried before.
Okay.
The strategy actually plays a very important role. So unless until you have a clear strategy, this is one of the first recipe you need to have, from the perspective of having a very, successful venture operations and sustenance. So this is one thing which companies very often ignore, right? We should have your strategy very clearly defined, and not only in terms of a notional one, but also with a clear-cut implementation aspects on how technology will the technology which you are actually trying to implement through that strategy, how that technology is aligning with the business goals, right? Adopting technology for the sake of adopting is not going to help you till the time it is very clearly aligned with the business goals. And that's what a strategy actually knits it very clearly. Now, the second aspect is you got to understand the change management. As one of the very great philosopher, one of the philosopher, I'm not going to name it politically, but then I'll quote the word is, he said, the only thing which is constant in this world is change. Right? So if the companies don't understand the change management and they actually underestimate that, that is probably one of the common mistake, where even the digital transformation will fail, or probably
Correct.
transformation is the one. I will say, even if you're not transforming, you are adopting, you are actually bound to fail, because when you are not engaging the employee, so the employee engagement is very clearly, attached to the change management, from a cultural perspective, from upskilling perspective. I mean, these are the things which are part of the change management. So when you are actually adopting these kind of transitions, you have to make sure that your change management strategy is again very, very adequately talked about, and matured, right? Now, one of the other aspects which I have often witnessed while my interaction with some of my clients who are from the Fortune 500 space is, a lot of people actually, when they venture into the market, they give a very less emphasis to the compliances, and being a digital world, you got to make sure that the data security is featuring paramount in your whole thought process, because
Absolutely.
when you are overlooking cybersecurity, it can actually lead to some of the major risks, not only from your operational excellence perspective or your operational sustainability perspective, but also your compliance perspective, right? So these two things go hand in hand together. And then the last thing which I will say is, you should not be only looking at cost cutting, right? The cost cutting is definitely an important one, but then the digital transformation should probably enhance the business models, not just reduce the expenses. So while I talked about a lot of things, let me just summarize this for you. You
Yes,
should have
please.
a very clear digital roadmap, which
Yes.
is tied into your long-term objectives, and you should prioritize the change management. This is always done with the leadership engagement, right? And then you should endeavor to implement a very secure and the reliable tech solutions, right? So these are
Makes
the two
sense.
important things for when you are actually implementing the technology. And then at the end, which is the not the last but the most important one, is everything which you do should be customer centric, right? Your digital strategies, your change management should actually put the customer at the center while trying to evaluate this one.
Makes sense.
I'm
Makes
sure,
sense.
I know it was a long answer, but I just wanted to make
No,
sure that I cover up the entire paradigm.
absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. You've talked about, the biggest mistakes that companies often make that during these transitions, and I think that was some very valuable advice. It's these kind of learnings actually that really make a difference when companies are looking to thrive in the digital age, I think. Deepak, we've already talked about your incredible work in cloud migration and digital transformation. But looking ahead, we are really curious about your thoughts on the future. With so many emerging technologies on the horizon, from AI to blockchain and beyond, what do you believe will have the biggest impact on global business in the next 5 years? Or what excites you the most about these innovations? And how do you think they're going to reshape industries and the way we do business?
And so thanks for asking this question. It's funny actually. I'll take you back to '94 when I finished my computer engineering. My actually last year
Okay.
project was on artificial intelligence. And
Wow.
this
Okay.
was almost 30 years back when I graduated,
Yeah.
right? Now, if you look at today, so the adoption of the artificial intelligence has been, accelerating only in the last 7 to 8 years. While
Agreed.
in AT&T, we started experimenting with the artificial intelligence right from 2004, when our first AI implementation was speech to text and text to speech conversion, right? Which was actually done for our, consumers who are into the retail space. So coming back to, you asked about next 5 years. I think
Right.
we are standing at the cusp of a next generation transformation. And obviously, it's no brainer. AI is going to play a major role, right?
Correct.
Generative AI is probably the first form of the AI, which is going to right now seeing the maturity from the perspective of the many models which are being put in by the companies in the generative AI space, and then as and when the time is passing, it is becoming more and more powerful in terms of giving you a very sound analytics and capable of actually doing a heavy lifting, mostly tactical work, which does not require really brain. But I think there is another field which is happening, right? Which is related to our environment, which is related to the climate. A lot of people are talking about the climate change and a lot of things, and they don't realize that artificial intelligence is also going to get into that. When you start looking at a quantum computing will start unlocking the solutions with the help of AI for climate change, right? For healthcare. And not the least, the financial modeling. So quantum computing is actually going to be the next big threshold in the technology space. I don't know if you have heard about CPO. It is called as a co-packaged optics. There's a lot of paper which is being right now published about this one.
Okay.
And the CPO is actually going to revolutionize the AI networking with energy efficient, high speed data processing. And that is something which is coming. Yes, it is right now being tested very thoroughly, but then this is definitely coming as we move into the future. Neuromorphic computing. I mean, this is again something which is and what is this neuromorphic computing, which is what the generative AI is trying to do. So, I mean, this is mimicking the human brain, right? And this is where we still see AI having a lot of errors, mistakes, because nobody can actually decode the human brain. It's so complex. But then there are a lot of efforts in terms of neuromorphic computing, which will start mimicking human brains. And what's the use of that is again a very faster processing and efficiency, which is being embedded into that faster processing. So that is something which is coming, and I'm sure it'll definitely be very profound. If not 5 years, probably 7, 8, 10 years from now. Agentic AI. So we talked about the managed services. We talked about agents. We talked about service model, software as a service. We talked about infrastructure as a service. So everything is as a service. And now the new model which is coming is called an agentic AI. A lot of people call it as agent as a service. Now what will happen is these particular models will actually create the AI systems with autonomous decision-making capabilities, which will actually revolutionize the robotics and the automation. And so this is something which is again will be very deeply powered by the innovations which are happening in the field of artificial intelligence. So what will happen? I mean, can we say these all things will happen in isolation? No. All these things will happen in tandem. And the impact of all these next gen technologies will be redefining the business models. I mean, the business models which you have today will not be the business models probably 10 years down the line. There will be a totally new business models with a lot of reliance from a technology, and it'll accelerate the automation. So the places, I mean, legal for matter, if you see, legal was the last sector or vertical to adopt technology. Lawyers are always very less acceptable to the technology, but now that is happening. So what legal will try to do is it will try to make up for the lost time by accelerating the automation at a much faster pace as compared to the other verticals like finance, BFSI, manufacturing, which actually adopted the automation and the digital automation long back. So the automation will actually accelerate with the help of these new gen technologies, and there will be new revenue streams. When these technologies come in, when the new business models come in, these will actually open the new revenue streams. And what I would caution is most of the organizations should start preparing now. I mean, time is kicking. These technologies will come in, and if you are trying to sustain yourself, you should start integrating the AI-driven solution. You should start investing in the cybersecurity, and for the workforce which you have, you should actually foster a culture. It's of a paramount importance that you should foster a culture of continuous learning. This is very important. So maybe again, I mean, slightly long answer, but I just wanted to make sure that I cover up the entire paradigm on how not 5 years, but probably next 20 years will look like.
Makes sense. Yes. So I think it's a very exciting time, for science and technology, and fascinating to hear your perspectives as well. The way these technologies will shape business is really exciting. Moving ahead, Deepak, as we look ahead to the future, you've already achieved so much in the digital transformation space. And I'm curious, what are some of your personal and professional aspirations moving forward? And when it comes to your future in the boardroom, what role do you see yourself playing in shaping strategic decisions and guiding organizations to greater heights?
No, very, very good question, Priya. And I think if you look at from the perspective of, I mean, my experience in the digital transformation, which of course spans across more than a decade, the AI strategy from the perspective of how AI can actually get into, the business models and the business operations, the automation, the process automation, and of course the analytics, right? Analytics is a very important piece right now. So all these things, if you combine from the perspective of your digital strategy, including the artificial intelligence, this is what a boardroom advisor is supposed to probably contribute, right? That is an important aspect. Some of the very tactical but yet a strategic one is an operational efficiency, business growth, because everybody is always talking about the operational efficiency and the business growth, how you optimize your profit and loss, how you include the cost saving strategies, how you actually build in the scalability into the business model. These are probably the old school thought from an operational efficiency and a business growth, which is always a discussion in the boardroom among the board of directors. And then the new one, which is coming in, is ESG, right? Corporate governance, ESG, how you make sure that the organization or the corporation is compliant. And then in this particular option, what I didn't talk about in my previous discussion was an ethical AI adoption, right?
Makes sense.
This is definitely important, because when a new technology comes in, there is always a good piece of it and a bad piece of it. So, and for the context of artificial intelligence, it is actually important for an ethical AI adoption, because AI can be actually being artificial intelligence. It can be manipulated in many ways. So it is important. So how a boardroom discussions of doing an ethical AI adoption will definitely of a paramount importance. And of course, as I said before, the only thing which is constant in this world is a change. So doing a continuous business transformation, doing a constant change management, it will be a key discussions in the boardroom. Now, my experience from the perspective of managing portfolios which are in excess of about $1 billion, um, being part of some of the corporate M&A strategies for some of the biggest acquisitions worth billions of dollars, and my consulting, which was actually a boardroom consulting for the Fortune 100 firms. My strength lies in high impact decisions, which are actually at a C-suite or a board level. So yes, I mean, these are the very exciting things always for me, and I think I'll continue to probably use my experience to actually consult the board on these particular aspects.
Right. Thank you for sharing that, to hear your vision for the future. That's really inspiring. And your aspirations in both digital transformation and boardroom leadership are really exciting. We can't wait to see, all the different things that you do in the near future. Deepak, throughout your impressive career, you've navigated both the corporate world and the startup ecosystem. And in today's business environment, ESG principles are becoming more central than ever. Given your leadership experience, I'm curious, how do you see ESG shaping business transformation and influencing decision making in the companies you work with?
Yeah, so this is, I covered this as part of my next generation, right?
You did.
So
to make it more efficient, and yes, you did touch upon it. Yes.
So, if you look at from ESG perspective, it's a very strategic business imperative now for all the corporations. And it is not just a compliance requirement because of the enormous benefits it is giving to the company by adopting the ESG norms. The companies who embed sustainability, and of course, I'll go back into ethical AI, because sustainability along with ethical AI, and when the ethical AI is being put into motion, then the governance, right? The governance into their digital strategies will actually gain a competitive advantage, right? Now, from my experience, if you look at from the perspective of how ESG will shift the decision making, is one of the will be probably the first thing which I can think of will be sustainability and the green tech. This is gaining traction. Artificial intelligence is one. IoT is another important work. These are technologies which are not only optimizing the energy usage, but also they are able to help organizations reduce the carbon footprint, right? So green tech will definitely be one of the major decision making, influencing strategy. Ethical AI and data governance, I have already talked about that. From the perspective of when the ethical AI and the data governance comes into your transparency, your security, and your fairness in the AI, these will be very critical for your long-term success. And the third thing, which of course is a very important pillar of the ESG, is diversity, right? Diversity and the inclusive leadership, right? Because when your team is diverse, right, the innovation is huge, right? The decision making is fastest and one of the best, and the adaptability is there. So from my perspective, if you start looking at diversity, it will probably one of the important one as part of the ESG initiative. And then the regulatory compliances, right? Regulatory compliances, when I talk about risk, automatically gets covered, right? So ESG regulations, for example, if you look at the EU Green Deal, right? If you talk about SEC climate rules, right? These are the ones which, from a regulatory perspective, are actually reshaping the corporate governance. So it will be very important to start looking at these things. Now, going into the boardroom discussions from an ESG perspective, if I am the boardroom advisor for the corporations, I will start focusing on a couple of the points. So the first will be, you should endeavor to drive the AI-powered sustainability solutions, right? Which will actually not only enhance the efficiency, but also reduce the environmental impact. So you are going to actually, going to accomplish multiple objectives with a single strategy. And then you should endeavor to strengthen the use of AI as a responsible one. So what we call as a responsible AI, ethical AI is definitely a part of it. And along with that, if you start having a cybersecurity governance to mitigate some of the technical risks, that is something. And then one of the things will be to probably advise on the ESG aligned investments, right? I mean, these are critical for the long-term resilience and the growth, because this is how the world is moving. And if you want to really take a lead, you should start looking at ESG aligned investments, right? And the last thing, which is actually the last but the most important one, you should have a strategy to champion the diversity and digital inclusion. And this particular thing will actually make your organization future proof, right? I mean, if you ask me, according to me, the future actually belongs to the businesses which are going to align their digital transformation with ESG principles.
With ESG principles,
right?
Yes.
My experience in AI, automation, ethical leadership, I have had opportunity to probably lead close to about 1,500 plus teams, and then data cultural migration. So ethical leadership actually gives me a lot of experience, where I can drive these kind of ESG-led innovations in the boardroom, which is probably the highest level in any of the corporate structure. So those will be probably my thoughts, Priya.
Right. Thank you. And it's powerful to see how ESG is influencing not just business outcomes but leadership decisions. And like you very correctly mentioned, ESG is not just a buzzword, but it should be integrated into the very fiber of an organization's, mission and vision, probably, to ensure a sustainable business. So thank you for sharing your perspective with us. Deepak, in one of your responses, you mentioned how you envisioned yourself in the next few years in the boardroom and your strengths and how you can so powerfully contribute, to boardroom and policy making. With such a remarkable career, and you've seen the importance of continuous learning and growth, which you mentioned as well, a culture of learning in the organization. We'd love to hear about your experience with Directors Institute. What inspired you to join, and how has it influenced your approach to leadership and decision making, particularly in your journey towards boardroom roles?
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. If you see, Priya, my experience across various sectors and businesses, if you look at from the alignment which I have with Director Institute, is the first one is my inspiration and aspiration to actually transition into the boardroom roles. And this is all where probably the Director Institute is very aligned, because they also work towards the same goal. So if I say my and Director Institute goals are perfectly aligned from the perspective of, it actually enhanced and strengthened my expertise in corporate governance, compliances, and of course, an ethical decision making. So if you look at from what Director Institute um, inspired, is my thinking, um, solidified some of the thoughts I had from the perspective of becoming a boardroom advisor. And I think my consulting and my boardroom selling, or what do we call as an advising for the Fortune 50 firms, and this is definitely a logical next step for me in terms of utilizing my experience from operational execution to the strategic board level influence. And the Directors Institute actually plays a very pivotal role in helping me solidify and improve some of my thoughts. So definitely, I definitely admire my association with Directors Institute, and I think this is definitely a very, very strategic association. I mean, I'm a man of lot many words, but then when it comes to the association, I always, struggle to find the right word. But then Directors Institute definitely inspired me for picking up a lot of things which I thought were of a less importance. So, for example, ESG was actually, my thoughts on ESG were influenced by Director Institute. So this was definitely a great association I always admire.
So the Directors Institute is definitely definitely a step in the right direction for you, considering your aspirations and goals for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. It just goes without saying. As I said, it deeply influenced some of my thinking, and how I can be a better person than what I am in terms of advising some of the future boardroom leaders.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. Deepak, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation, from your earlier career journey to your groundbreaking work at Proxiio, your expertise in digital transformation, your vision for the future of business and technology for yourself as well. You've shared really valuable perspectives that will undoubtedly resonate with our audience, and your insights into leadership, innovation, and ESG driven decision making, they provide a roadmap for professionals navigating today's ever evolving corporate landscape. And your thoughts on continuous learning, especially through Directors Institute, highlight the importance of staying ahead in a very dynamic world. So, Deepak, thank you once again for being with us on FaceTime with Leaders and answering our questions.
No, Priya, it has definitely been absolutely my honor and my privilege to be part of this conversation. And, probably my lot of appreciation to you also for probably, asking some thought-provoking questions, which actually helped me. I mean, this whole interview actually took me back into 30 years, and gave me a complete history of what I did over last more than 2 decades. So again, once again, thank you for probably reminding me and talking about my journey, about how I have come into where I am. So again, I thank you for some of the wonderful questions. These were definitely great questions, and definitely aligned with how organizations are moving towards the next generation and the next level, competence. And this will definitely I'm sure some of my thoughts will probably resonate with some of your
Absolutely.
audience. So once again, my deepest and sincere appreciation for this particular time with you. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your encouragement. And to our audience, we hope this conversation has sparked new ideas and offered inspiration as you chart your own professional journeys. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to FaceTime with Leaders for more conversations with industry pioneers shaping the future, such as Mr. Deepak Mishra. Deepak, thank you once again for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And with that, this is your host, Priya George, signing off. We conclude today's episode. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep driving impact. Thank you and take care.